Good morning, coffee chat time. Hi, I'm Lynelle Campbell. I'm the numeracy consultant at Learn and Grow, and I'm introducing you to Gail. She's going to take over today on the literacy side.
Hi everyone, I'm Gail Brown, and today we're going to be talking about questioning, which is one of my favourite topics, as Lynelle knows.
Yeah, so this is such an important skill, and I just love how Gail teaches children this. It's just so good. So listen up.
Yeah, so we're looking at two students today, which is a bit of a change. Both Mary and Jack are struggling with answering questions, and it's both an oral and a written issue for them, and we're just not sure why. So let's have a think about that, and maybe you might like to think if you have students maybe in, even grades from kindergarten up to grade 3 or 4 who really struggle with understanding both oral and written texts, particularly even if their decoding seems to be okay. I think a lot of emphasis at the moment in K-2 is being put on learning to decode, and I would definitely agree with that. But we can't leave comprehension out of that mix.
Yeah.
The purpose for reading is understanding.
Exactly, yeah.
And learning from what we read.
And we have to be careful, don't we? There are some children who can decode quite efficiently.
Yep.
But they don't necessarily understand what they're reading.
And often those students can have English as a second language. They can be from any non-English speaking background or any bilingual background.
Or it could be students. I've worked with students with language
language delays. Yep. But the only purpose or the main purpose for reading is to understand and learn from what we're reading, whether it's on the screen, whether it's in a hard copy book, even learning from a YouTube or a movie or a cartoon that we're viewing. All of these have messages for us to learn. And the teacher's really concerned that it's not just these two students, they're the targets, but in her class, she's really concerned that there are others, and she's not sure. She's really unsure how wide or broad this problem is.
So she's got to
assess. So she's doing some assessment of their oral language, just informal assessments around how Mary and Jack and the rest of the class listen, respond, and follow instructions. And, by the time children get into grades 2 and 3, the complexity of those oral instructions can be quite high. Teachers don't often realise this. If they start with something like, I want you to line up at the door, hang your bags up, get your pencil case out, and go and sit at your desks, that's multiple instructions. And that may be beyond the working memory of some children to actually follow and do all of those things.
That's right, and then they get into trouble.
Correct. Correct. So the next thing she was looking at was how they answer questions about the texts that are being read to them or the text that they are reading independently, and whether they're choosing an answer. So, for example, that would be a multiple choice question, or even a question that's a yes-no question. Really, if it's yes-no, it's a multiple choice that's very simple, or whether they have to actually produce an answer and have to remember what's been read orally. Okay?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there, which I like how you're sort of splitting them out to find out where's the point of difficulty starting.
Exactly.
That's a great
we know
ladder.
And the recent reviews of the curriculum that are happening, as well as the science of reading, they emphasise that reading is based on oral language. So what we know as the oral understanding of a word that we've heard, that underpins when we read a word in a text, whether we understand that word in that text on the page. And if we don't, if we haven't heard the word before, we're likely not to understand the word, even if we can decode it.
That's right.
That's the issue. But we also need to find out if they can write simple words and write sentence answers to demonstrate their understanding, because by grade 2 and 3, that's what's expected in terms of the curriculum and the learning progressions, that they should be able to write a complete sentence, and it should be spelled correctly and punctuated correctly. So there's a lot of evidence that she's gathering there.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. So you could put all of this onto a bit of a checklist.
Yep.
And watch, ticks, you can do this.
Yep.
Can't do this. And for the others, put a few kids' names there. As you said, she had a few students she wanted to assess. This wouldn't always need to be formal assessment, would it, Gail?
No, it could be something as simple as a work sample and looking at how many answers they're writing correctly in full sentences.
Yeah, and so this is how this teacher did it.
Yeah, she is assessing their oral language. Occasionally she has show and tell, where the students are showing what they did in the holidays or what they did on the weekend, or news, they went somewhere special. She's also assessing how they answer questions, both multiple choice and sentences. And she's using the teacher rating of oral language and literacy, which it's about words and sentences, but it's more about the oral. Finally, she's talking to parents, because she wants what's happening in the classroom for both these students and for the whole class to, in fact, be consistent with what's happening at home.
That's so helpful, isn't it?
And that's really important. We really want to make sure that the children understand that it doesn't matter whether they're reading at school or at home, they still need to understand what they're reading. And
giving the parents, it just even in that gathering process, having those conversations with the parents, you would be teaching them that that's actually important to talk about what the child's read, and even give them some comprehension questions to ask and some ways to have those conversations, because I know, having worked with parents before, they don't necessarily know how to have a comprehension activity, if you like, around a book reading.
Just answering some simple questions with simple sentence answers that are, one clause. So the oral language is around, listening, active listening games. Lynelle, have you ever played the yes-no game?
I don't know. I'm going to be your guinea pig, am I?
Well, Lynelle, do you have purple hair?
No.
Well, you just lost.
Oh, so, what am I supposed to say? No.
You can't say yes or no. And the big rule is that you must answer in a complete oral sentence. So there's your oral language. So if I ask you that question again, you're going to listen more carefully. You're going to use the words from the question to make your answer. So for the question, do you have purple hair? You're going to start with I, and you're going to
don't have purple hair.
Perfect. Or you can say, I have what color hair?
I have
perfect
brown hair.
You can see the prompting that I'm doing with you. That's the same prompting you would do with your child. It's a game. It's a fun game. You can play it in the car. You can play it on the way to school. You can play it on a bushwalk. Does that bird have green feathers? Ask these sorts of questions about the things around you. Is the wattle purple? No, a wattle is yellow. You wouldn't say no. I said it. I lost. So the other thing is looking at, and I've got some samples there of the YouTube that I've created for questioning, and it's about small steps. So understanding the words, and in particular the clue words in questions: the who, what, where, when. That's really important, and it's probably surprise you to learn that in my action research in schools, there have been children in grade 4 who haven't been clear as to whether the brown cow was a who or a what. Now, Mrs. Brown Cow, who talks, is a who. But the brown cow in the field, who's just an animal, that will always be a what. And I was quite surprised to see grade 4 children not having that fine discrimination, because it is a fine discrimination. We assume that characters in books like Winnie the Pooh are a who. Why? Because they walk and they talk and they behave like humans. So, you know, even the dogs in Paw Patrol, they're a who. They're like people. They talk, they drive cars, they save people. So it doesn't matter whether it's an imaginary character or a real person, that's a who. Now that takes deep understanding. And if you don't have that,
there's your explicit explanation, and that's
correct.
Instead of assuming that
Correct.
because we've exposed students to this and they're enjoying the books or they're enjoying whatever it is, have they actually picked up that fine division between those? Yeah, I like that, Gail. Yep. Let's not assume.
Yeah, these are the foundations. This is the beginning. And before we move on, the really important thing is to figure out where answers come from. And that's question-answer relationships. So we start with right there questions where the answers are found right there in one sentence in a text. So the room for error is minimized. Students know they're looking for one sentence, and initially it's a simple sentence. So the strength in these set of YouTubes, which are freely available, is that it moves through a sequence. It might seem like it's starting very easy, but by the end of it, the students this is level B, which is about grade 2, the students are understanding that some main ideas are actually not stated in texts. And they have to think of those on their own because they are implied.
And I've worked with students in the upper primary, even lower secondary, who, if the answer's not right there in the text, they're a bit lost.
Correct.
Because again, they need this explicit instruction.
Correct.
Of what to do. They're lost.
Yep, exactly. So, you know, Mary and a few others were responding well to the oral answering. They were listening more actively and they were writing sentences. But Jack was still struggling. He needed much more focus on the word level and the adjusted materials for reducing writing demands, where there was more multiple choice and less sentence writing. So for the whole class, the teacher actually talked to the parents, particularly targeting Mary and Jack's parents, but sent home some information to all parents about reading nightly and focusing questions on what she was teaching in class.
Oh, I like that. I do like that.
And making sure the text was simple and decodable, so there wasn't an emphasis on decoding. The emphasis is on understanding.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah. Take away that layer of slowing down the comprehension. Good.
And so there's some links here. I'm not sure if they'll be live, but you can email me if you need to. I'd highly recommend the How Learning Happens book by Paul Kirshner and Carl Hendrick, because it takes, you know, important, effective research and explains what it means in practice. Now it's not an expensive book for $35. That's Australian dollars. And you know, the resources will be available in the member group. So if people want to join us, but the playlist, the first 12 lessons link is there. 12 lessons should take you about 4 weeks to do.
That is fantastic, Gail, that you're making that available for free. It's such a wonderful resource.
There's a free parent handbook on the website that parents can download so that they can view the YouTube with their child and then ask who and what questions, because that's where it starts.
Wow.
So just
that is
practice those.
Very generous. If you want that, we'll make that hyperlinks available, like as a download. Just let us know. You need to respond. You need to ask some comments and say, I would like that hyperlink as a PDF download, so that you don't have to type all that in.
Particularly in times of remote learning, if you are in lockdown or if you return to lockdown, I think if parents read to their children every day and just asked them questions about what they were reading, you'd find that they wouldn't be losing so many of their skills.
That's a good point. So, we want to help take the pressure down. We're here to help with ideas around keeping students improving and learning and growing in literacy and numeracy, and helping you as a teacher in that area as well. So please like this video and share it with others. Let people know there's a group to join where you get even more help. We'll go a lot deeper into this on Thursday night in the coffee and cake session. So become a member. There'll be a link where you can join to get more resources from Gail and myself, and get more answers.
Definitely.